Good afternoon, everybody. This is Louis from Blue Gypsy Homestead. How you doing? Today, the entire audio of this is going to be basically an overdub because when I was shooting the video, essentially it was so windy that you wouldn't have heard me anyways. So let's talk a little bit about what we're doing here. So in this scene, basically what I'm doing is I'm looking for the apple trees that I've planted that I've overwintered. They're still little sticks, but as you can tell, they still needed to be cleaned up around them. Now, you might be wondering about this pipe that I'm holding in my hand. It is going to be used as a guard. So basically what I'm going to do is put it around the tree, and I'm going to use my whippersnipper to go around. The pipe will act as a shield so that I don't actually cut the tree down. You might ask how I know this. Because, well, I cut one of them down. The This way what I'm doing is I'm just basically clearing up the base so that there'll be about a 4-inch circle around the tree, and that's going to be where I'm going to start planting the clover to take care of the tree, to cover the base of the tree. I will do this for every one of the trees that I have, and I believe there's about 48 of them. I won't show you them all, but I just put once I'm done, put that down, put the stick to mark where the tree is so that I can find it later on as the grass gets taller. And then I will be able to take the whippersnipper again to cut the grass back quite a bit more. This is basically where I started. So if you can see, because it was a bit of a hunting trip, I had to go looking for the branch, looking for the tree itself, and it was just a little bit of a branch. So I had to part the grass and look for the stub, if you will. The tree in some of the trees are about 2 to 3 inches tall. Uh, some of them are taller, but this is pretty much where I'm starting. I'm going to be covering again around the base of the tree with red clover, and the red clover will do two things. The red clover will both keep the moisture in around the base of the tree. It'll also keep the weeds from growing. And then in the fall, when it dies back, it essentially fixes the nitrogen in the soil. So it becomes a bit of a green fertilizer. That's what we'll be doing here. So as the stick goes in the ground, it'll be basically marking the place. Um, Again, this is something I'm going to have to do repeatedly. I repeat this same process over all 48 different plants, and I'm not going to go through all of them with you, but as you can see, the pipe works as a very effective shield. This way I can trim around without worrying about cutting out the tree by accident. So I can get right in there. And yes, while there is a little bit of grass left, as you can see, the stick marks where the tree is, and effectively I can go back later on and trim it by hand if I have to. Now, one of the other things we have is those branches that you see in there right now are raspberries. When we originally started the winery, we were growing our own raspberries uh, in an effort to make raspberry wine. Well, since the winery no longer exists, I basically decided that these canes, the raspberry canes, need to move. So I took my shovel, dug up the canes to the best of my ability, shook off the majority of the dirt, but not all of it. You'll notice that I'm putting on gloves because, well, these are not thornless. So I dig up these raspberries, and I will, and they were quite resistant, which gives me hope that the root system is actually going to develop nicely. Now these plants have not actually produced anything in at least 2 or 3 years, so I'm hoping that by giving them a better place that I will actually be able to get some raspberries again. They did produce the first couple of years, but then stopped. I'm going to imagine that they stopped because they weren't being maintained. I mean, to be fair, they were in some cases just mowed down because, again, I had no real use for them. Now I do. So in this section here, I'm digging up the plants. I'm taking off the excess dirt, the excess grass, because that's something I don't want to take with me. I don't want to take the grass with me. And I'm just putting back that earth in that spot. Some of the canes came up easier than others. I didn't um, I didn't dig everything up yet. There's still quite a few left. I think I dug up about 20 or 25 canes, and I could probably dig up another 25 if I wanted to. It's um, it's long work, but at the same time, it's rewarding because now I'm going to have these raspberries again, and hopefully they will produce. Now, there were a couple of the canes that I left because they were very well established. And so, because they were well established, I knew that disturbing the roots was probably a very bad idea. That's why you'll see a couple of them that I'll just walk right by. Uh, the ones I have in my hands now are fairly simple to deal with. So what I decided to do essentially was to um, drill out, drill holes uh, next to the hoop, and I'm using an auger. It's about a 2-inch auger. It attaches onto a drill of any type, and what that enables me to do is to actually go in, drill holes as much as a foot down, and for me to transplant into. I'll be doing this in the garden as well when I start to move my seedlings out there. But for the moment, uh, it's just it's just a way of creating a hole nice and even. I can go as deep as I want. I can add fertilizer if I want. Many things I can do. This is it's. I'll be honest with you. If you haven't got one of these, it's a godsend. Um, yes. So sometimes the drill falls out, so you do have to remember to actually tighten it up, which is something I have. Uh, Sometimes the drill goes too deep, and I have to reverse it so I can back it out. Uh, Sometimes I can just pull it up, but that puts a strain on the drill more than you really want to do. Then, so I continue. I'm going to drill the entire row on this, and then once the row is done, I will move over and I will start to start to put the plants in. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to gather up the canes that I've dug up, and I'm going to plant them. Now, sometimes what it'll take is I'll have to take the roots, maybe shake off a little bit more of the dirt. But the key is that I have to be able to put the roots that I've dug up into the holes that I've drilled. So sometimes what I end up having to do is compress the roots so that they'll fit. Again, there's a lot more room in there. Um, the root system on a raspberry cane is actually quite strong, so there'll be very little difficulty for it to spread out. Um, so here you'll see me basically taking the drill because the hole is just too small for that particular root ball. I'll take the drill, I'll make a bigger hole, so I'll just move the drill around to make a bigger hole, and then I'll be able to slip the cane in. This is one of the bigger canes, but still, I want to make sure that it has plenty of room to move around in there and plenty of way of growing out. Here, as you can see, I'm compressing the roots and I'm slipping them in. And then I'm pushing the cane as deep as I can so that it can settle in. It will eventually, once the rains start, well, actually, once they continue, they will find their ways, the roots will find their way around, they will reestablish, and that'll be fine. The other thing about a raspberry, which is very interesting, is that if I was to cut those roots off completely and just plant the canes up to one of the first two buds, let's say, the buds would eventually become roots. So if I'm finding that this isn't working out, I will in fact do that. I'll pull up those canes, clip them off, or just pull them out completely and replace them. I do have many, many of these canes still in the field. So I will trim them down and just plant them that way. The reason I didn't cut them in the field was because I really do need to remove them. And if I was just to cut them, the root ball would stay, and in no time at all, I'd have another raspberry plant there. So yes, that's a great way of propagating, but propagation was not my goal. My goal was actually relocation. So that's why I have to do it this way. We have a forecast. The forecast actually is a lot more rain coming, which is good. And so once the water gets in there, it'll start to make the holes a little more, I guess, um, conducive to having the roots spread out. Now I will continue to do this for quite a bit still. I have quite a few to still cut, but again, I'm not going to have to do all of them yet. So as you can see, the canes are now planted, or at least what I had are planted. And this is just a quick overview to show you what they look like. The goal is that they will grow up along this hoop, and because this hoop faces, or rather this side of the hoop faces south, I'm hoping that they will take sooner. In any case, that's everything for today. Thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon.